Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles,
I'm Lydia Judy.
And I'm Derek Lemaster.
and this is Scream Bloody Movie, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and my co-hosts take forever to respond.
That was, I don't know what you're talking about, man. That was like so fast.
You were on it this time,
I
but you were
haven't said it
late
with
by
pep.
proxy because of Lydia.
I was
I
on
can't
it.
win.
No, this is
Can't win.
actually the podcast where we discuss all things Gremlins this week. But before we get into that, what's new, guys? How you doing?
I'm doing terrible. Thank you for asking.
Glad you're getting into that holiday spirit.
Yeah, my life is like a nightmare and couldn't get any worse, but that's okay.
I mean, you guys could get a mogwai and then feed it after midnight.
That's true. That could
I
happen.
think that would be better than how my life is going right.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's fine. Everything's fine.
You're like that meme where everything's on fire and the dog's sitting there drinking his coffee. Everything's fine. Derek, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. You and I are going to go see Spider-Man tomorrow, so I'm super pumped.
Spider-Man!
I was really disappointed that you didn't reply back with my little person Spider-Man.
I don't think I got that.
No! What are you talking about?
No, I
He
didn't
was
get that.
he was like dancing. You didn't see that?
No, I
All
did
right, well, I'm
not.
resending it to you.
Yeah, I
I'm
did not
resending
get
it to
that.
you.
I mean, I was out of country for this past week, so
I sent it to you yesterday, I think.
I didn't get that.
All right, I'll send it to you because it's funny.
I
You'll
was
get it.
on an all-inclusive vacation with my wife in the Dominican Republic. It was beautiful. It was great. I drank a lot of alcohol and ate a lot of food. Uh, you
There
know,
you go.
but I was super excited to come back and talk about today's episode with you guys. I missed you while I was in the Dominican.
Yeah, I bet.
I was thinking solely of you guys and uh, Derek having to edit the last episode. That's all I was thinking about the entire time.
Like, I hope he doesn't screw it up.
I watched it immediately. Was like, okay, it's fine. There's there's not any little people dancing in this one.
Oh, you just wait till this episode is we'll
Oh,
see. We'll see
yeah,
about that.
we'll see
Oh
for
man.
sure.
You know what
So
I'm gonna put in
guys,
here just because real quick, I'm gonna put this in here and hope that Joey watches it. I'm gonna try to find that video of the dancing
woman.
the tap dancing woman.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, let's see if I can
We'll
find that.
tag Joey in it, make him watch it.
There you go.
We'll also put
You're,
Mrs. Butterworth in it because Joey used to have an irrational fear of Mrs. Butterworth.
was it because it was shaped like a person?
Yeah, I don't know. He just used to be so afraid
Maybe he was like, "This is how lawn gnomes begin." Out as
because he's also
bottles of.
terrified of those. He's terrified of those as well. Friend of ours once put like lawn gnomes all over his car. Like they put it in his visor, so when he pulled it down, lawn gnome.
Brilliant, by the way.
Yes. My buddy Nick did a similar thing with his brother who was afraid of Sammy Terry.
Oh yeah.
You guys remember Sammy Terry, right?
Oh, I sure
He
do.
he put him like on his picture of him on his door, on door knobs, on the milk in the fridge. I don't have any of those irrational fears, so I can't get attacked that way.
You're so brave.
I am. That's why I would survive Mary Shaw. We talked about this at great length. So, guys, this week we have a great movie. one of the all-time best, and we'll get into it. We're having a string of them here, man. We Hatchet, The Thing. Now this week we're doing we had a string of stink bombs that Derek picked, and then the string of good movies that I picked. So
I don't know. That one movie was pretty bad, and one of you guys picked it. I didn't pick it.
which movie was that?
I think he's just trying to save himself here.
No. What was the name of the movie? It was the one where he had a twin brother and Blood Rage. Blood Rage.
That's a great movie. That's a classic.
Yeah.
That is a Thanksgiving masterpiece.
This isn't cranberry sauce.
It's not cranberry sauce.
It's not cranberry sauce.
Oh my goodness.
Well, let's start this week like we do every week and get into the horror news.
Do it.
So, guys, I've got some, not a lot of horror news, but some actually really big news at the same time. So, that's cool. There's only about 4 things here that are worth talking about. First, Anne Rice, the author, passed away this week. Did you guys see this?
Did see that, yeah.
Yep. So that's sad.
Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interview with the Vampire, all of the Lestat novels. She was a pioneer, basically, in horror fiction, and so I thought we should give her a special mention on this episode for life well lived. I mean, she was in her 80s, yeah.
Yeah, I think she was 80.
Yeah. So I mean, pour one out for her. She lived it, and gave us some great entertainment. So kudos.
I don't have anything to drink, otherwise I would.
You're getting parched watching me sip on my delicious
I am.
water.
I got a dry throat over here.
You always have a dry throat. Actually, usually it's a phlegmy throat.
I've already muted myself at least once.
I just wanted to do an impression of you. Okay.
I just imagined you putting Flemmy Fella on the screen right there.
I did that one time.
Did you do a burp and keep your mouth closed and make it real?
Dude, you should do
from the gut.
Do you have to burp? Do the burp. Show our listeners the burp.
You know what? If I had something to drink, I totally would, but I don't. So.
Well, if the burp happens, let it happen on mic, so that way they can hear. Derek's burp is so weird that once I said to Toby, I mentioned about Derek's weird burp, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. He's like, "Oh yeah, that is a weird burp."
So here's the thing. The reason I even do it that way, because I was like, maybe if I keep my mouth closed, it won't be as noticeable. Little did I know.
It sounds like it's grumbling.
My signature move.
Signature move?
Yeah, my signature move.
Oh
my go-to.
Yeah, Stone Cold has the stunner. Derek has the burp.
That's right.
So, we talked about this last week, and so I'm bringing it back. Our favorite movie, Renfield, has a new casting decision. Ben Schwartz has been cast in the new Renfield movie. Do you guys know who Ben Schwartz is? Ben Schwartz is John Ralphio from Parks and Rec.
You got him right here. Leave a message after the beep.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
Ben Schwartz. Ben Schwartz has been cast. I don't know if they say who he's playing. He'll play a mobster. So that should be fun. What do you guys think of that? This movie is taking on a tone, I feel like.
Yeah, who do we got already in it?
Well, we have Nicholas Hoult. We have Nicolas Cage as Dracula.
Oh my god!
And now we have Ben Schwartz as a mobster.
So is this going to be a funny movie?
I'm assuming it's going to be, right?
Like a horror comedy?
That's what I'm guessing.
I was hoping for something more serious, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, this is a little off topic, but did you guys see the preview for Nicolas Cage's new movie?
No.
I saw your response to it. I haven't seen it though.
I saw your response too, but I didn't watch it.
Well, we will we'll watch it after the podcast because it's the trailer is amazing. It's the burden of unparalleled talent or something like that. It is fucking hilarious. Guys, so there's a Friday the 13th game, right?
Yep.
And
yes,
you've played it. Get to be Jason and what have you. It's a great game. Great game. Gun Media makes that game. Well, guys, Gun Media released their new game, the announcement of their new game, and it is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game.
Oh, snap.
Really?
And Leatherface is played by Kane Hodder.
What? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you guys in sync.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
You guys...
Like there is. Yeah, I was going to jump right into it. Like Friday the 13th has such a rich history. I mean, there's like 50,000 of them. And we talked about this. There's like, what, 5 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies?
Oh, no. There is way more. You have the first 3. Then you have the Next Generation. Then you have the 2 remakes. So that's 6. Then you have the Texas 3D, which we'll not talk about. You have the new Leatherface movie, and now so there's like 9 of these movies now.
I was close. Anyway, I just feel like there's a richer history with Friday the 13th. I can't wait to see what the game looks like. Hopefully, they've got a demo soon that we can play, and so I'll give it a shot.
What do you think, Leah?
I don't know. I really wanted to play the Friday the 13th game. I saw a little bit of it. I didn't get to play it. I'm not good at games. I'm just not. It's not a talent of mine.
Are you a button masher?
Oh yeah, like I have zero clue how to play games. Like it's that bad. It's not a thing that I know how to do. I get lost immediately. I'll be like running into walls. Like I can't steer myself. It's as big as a mess as you can imagine. I can play Animal Crossing, and that's where I'm at.
I own the Friday the 13th for the PS4 and love it. It's great. You can do, when it came out and through its heyday, you could do big MMO matches, essentially, like you have everybody, tons of people are a counselor and one person is Jason, and the counselors have to either escape or survive the time limit, and Jason has to kill him. And so it's a blast. And then you can also do a single player mode, where you're just Jason and you just dispatch teenagers. Yeah, I mean, it's the best. My only worry with this, I'm excited as hell about it, and it's great that Kane Hodder gets a chance to play Leatherface. But my problem is just that there's not. With Friday the 13th, the game, you could have a lot of really inventive kill animations because Jason kills people in tons of ways. We'll get to the sequels here soon. But Jason kills people in tons of ways. Leatherface, kind of does his thing. Hangs them on hooks and chops them with a chainsaw. Hits him in the head with a hammer, that kind of thing. So, we'll see. I'm excited for it. They did anything like the last game. I'm excited to see it. Let's
It'll be interesting.
And then the last bit of news I have here today is the biggest, and I was delighted to hear this. This last week, A Nightmare on Elm Street was selected to be preserved forever in the National Film Archives,
Yes.
being culturally significant.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of it
Correct.
being? What do you think of it being selected for the National Film Registry?
I'm shocked that it hasn't been already.
Yeah,
It is very iconic. I don't know much about the film registry. I don't know what that implies
So-
for this movie.
so that means that it's selected as one of the movies to be put in the Library of Congress, to be culturally significantly, culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. So it's saying that the great maestro Wes Craven, as both the writer and director, gave a generation of teens terminal insomnia with his imaginative and intense slasher scarefest. Freddy Krueger is the burnt, scarred ghost of a psychopathic child killer, now returned to, well, we know what the movie's about. But basically, they're saying that, that it changed the landscape of horror, essentially. It was selected with about 25 other movies ranging from the early 1900s to Lord of the Rings and Wall-E were both selected this year, along with Return of the Jedi, which, why wasn't Return of the Jedi selected immediately? The other two of the original sequel Star Wars movies are already in the Library of Congress.
So here's a question
So-
for you, and I don't know if you know it, but it's worth asking. Are there any other horror movies that are part of this collection?
Oh yeah, of this year's, or just in general?
In general.
Oh yeah. Halloween's part of the Library of Congress.
Okay, I could have guessed that one.
Psycho's in the Library of Congress.
Jaws.
Jaws, I think, probably is. So yeah, but it's just great that it's going to be forever preserved. That way, 500 years from now, people will, aliens can see that we
Can you
made that.
imagine?
No.
500
Yeah.
years.
Hmm.
How different
We'll live
we
in
are than
glass
500 years
dome.
ago.
Yeah.
We can't
Yeah.
breathe the air. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Just saying. Just saying. So that's really all I had for the horror news. It was kind of a slow week. I didn't have any new monster news. I looked.
Stop looking
I thought
for
about
that.
bringing it up, man.
Couldn't find any. So I just dealt with what we had. So guys, it's the holiday season. We're 10 days away from Christmas? Well, 9 days away from Christmas. Almost. By the time
day's almost over.
by tomorrow. So it's Christmas time. What gets you in this mood of Christmas, like a good Christmas horror movie? So we're going to start this week like we do every single week and discuss our history with Gremlins and what Gremlins means to you as far as Christmas time. We'll start with you, Lydia. What's your Gremlin story?
I don't know. I guess like where I first experienced it.
Yeah, and just your memories of it growing up and what have you.
Yeah, well, first of all, this is like a comfort movie for me. I've watched the crap out of this movie. I think I had it on VHS, probably wore out. I watched it a lot. And I mean, I watched it to the point where I was like the kid at school that was like, "What's your favorite Christmas movie?" Oh, Gremlins. Like, And everybody's like, that's not a Christmas movie, that's a scary movie. I'm like, it's a Christmas movie, guys, come on. And but I do remember like one of my earliest memories of my dad taking me like to Walmart and stuff, and he would be like, okay, you can pick out like a little tape or something. And I'd go like and look at all the cover art, of course. And the cover art for this movie was the little gizmo with the shadow behind it. The scary shadow. And I was like, what's this one? And my dad being like, no, that's a little too scary for you. And I just always was like, what about this one? What about this one? Can I get this one yet? And he was like, I think that'll give you nightmares, which is fair because I had nightmares about a lot of movies. But when I finally got to watch it, I was like, this is what you kept me from?
How dare you, sir?
Yes.
Derek.
So I actually have a really funny story about this one. I remember I was like 5 or 6 and I had the flu. And I remember like waking my mom up. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And she like was trying to get me ready because she was going to take me to the emergency room. And she set me down and I started watching Gremlins like 11 o'clock at night with the flu, just waiting for my mom to get ready to take me to the hospital. But I didn't make it through the entire movie, obviously. But like that has always been like ingrained in me. But I've seen this movie. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you remember like what scene like you remember watching?
It was definitely whenever they were. It was around the bar scene, so like where they're running around town. And so it was at night, and yeah, so I think it was like right in that period. But as a kid, I watched this movie a ton, but I have not seen this movie. I guarantee in at least 20 years, I haven't seen this movie.
Wow,
longer. But it's amazing how much you remember.
It is. I didn't have the flu when I watched this movie, so my story's a little different than yours. But as far as watching it all the time as a kid, I'm with you guys. I think we did have this on like a recorded VHS. I think I had it on like a recorded VHS tape.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember watching it there. I remember watching it on TV, and especially HBO. HBO used to show this all the time. So it was on HBO. Watching at mom and dad's. And I actually think I watched the new batch more because it was on more. So I grew up more with Gremlins 2.
That's a great
when
one.
I was younger, because it's phenomenal. It's one of the best sequels. Can't wait to get to that next year, probably Christmas time. We'll pull it out. But it's a great one. But I grew up with that. But Gremlins has always been...
out in song right now.
Oh, for Gremlins 2?
Start spreading the news. Yeah.
Yes.
It's so good. It's so good. It's an underrated, overlooked sequel. Like just batshit crazy. It's so fun. But this one is a blast. And I bought it on Blu-ray several years ago. And ever since I bought it, it's been every year on Christmas. Around Christmas time, I watch it. So I've seen it quite a few times recently. So yeah, I watched it right before we started recording, and have the theme song stuck in my head, and have the feeling. We'll get to it, but there's the ending of this movie is incredible. The very ending, I love it so much, and I'll tell you why when we get there. But this is definitely one of those nostalgia hit movies for me. So let's get into it. Yeah, you guys want to dive into Joe Dante? Joe Dante's classic, Steven Spielberg produced, Chris Columbus written. Let's take a minute and talk about all of those names involved in this movie. I mean,
It's
that's crazy.
insane.
Directed by Joe Dante, who's incredible. Written by Chris Columbus, who's incredible.
Came over on the Mayflower.
Not that Chris Columbus. We wouldn't have
Sorry.
Home Alone without
There.
Chris Columbus, or The Goonies, or the first few Harry Potter movies. So, Chris Columbus, number one. And then, of course, our Lord and Savior, besides John Carpenter, Steven Spielberg. Those are our two masters. And you can feel the Spielberg fingerprints all over this movie. The Amblin feel is right there in this one. And there's some Easter eggs I'm going to point out to you guys as we go along. And I'm going to talk about earlier drafts of this script at certain points as well. So, let's dive into Gremlins. So the movie opens with this like great voiceover from Rand Peltzer, Billy's dad. And I love his character. Billy's dad is great, don't you guys think?
Yes.
Yes.
He's just like such a dad.
If he were my husband, if I were his wife, I would never let him tinker with anything in the kitchen ever again. But that's neither here nor there.
That's such an 80s thing, though, right? Like the wacky inventor husband. I mean, I bet you he and Rick Moranis get together and go bowling sometimes.
They do. And he's totally jealous of Rick.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He has the bathroom buddy and Rick Moranis shrink shit.
Yeah. Dude, there's a scene in this movie. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead, but I gotta bring it. It's so funny. Where he's like on that payphone and that robot's behind him.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even know what the robot's talking about.
I don't either, but it's hilarious.
He's like, I don't like it either. It makes you rust or something.
Yeah. I don't prescribe to it. It makes me rust.
Yeah.
So we open with he's visiting Chinatown. And it's a beautiful like backlot that they're on. Like the 80s, Chinatown in the 80s. It's just so warm and fuzzy. So he starts talking to us with this voiceover and telling us that, he's going to tell us a story that nobody's ever heard before. And it's a story unlike any other. And it said it all started in Chinatown. And then we get into the story. And he goes down to the shop owned by this man, Mr. Wing. And they're looking around. He's looking around the shop, and he's trying to pawn off his shitty-ass bathroom buddy onto this guy, which is this invention of his where it basically, now we kind of have real bathroom buddies almost. Because, he's like, it's like a Swiss Army knife for like getting ready is what this thing is. Has a toothbrush.
Toiletries.
Yeah, the toiletry knife, Swiss Army toiletry knife, yeah. So then he hears behind him, some little squeaky noises. And he goes over there and looks, and he sees Gizmo. And, he just, what is this? This is Mogwai. And he tries to buy it. And the guy tells him it's not for sale. To take the Mogwai, you have to have incredible responsibility. So he leaves. He throws down $200, which, by the way, the inflation rate was like $500, basically. Tries to buy this thing for $500. And he says it's not for sale. So the kid meets him in the alley, says, meet me in the alley, and gives him the Mogwai. What do you guys think of this opening?
That kid has no clue what's about to happen. This guy and his family. I couldn't help but think that on this watch, I was like, you know what? I think you probably could have just gotten like a kitten.
Or a dog. I think he
Yeah.
was hoping for a puppy.
Well, you know, he
Yeah.
had a dog. Like you want to switch it up
He
a little
has
bit.
Barney.
Get a kitten. Get you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great introduction to the world that we're entering, and a great introduction to Gizmo. Like we don't see him, but we want to know what's in that package, you know. And then it sets the world of mystery. It's such a like adventurous setting to start the movie in.
So I actually
So
have
then we
a
go.
couple of thoughts on the opening.
Go ahead.
Really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I want to phrase this correctly. So this movie, watching it, and I got like, 70% through it, and I'm like, man, this is so much more a comedy, like a horror comedy, than I remember it being. Right? So like with the movie we watched last week, where it's just a classic horror movie, the opening for a horror movie, I felt like it was a little weak. That being said, for a horror comedy, I think it set up the premise of the movie and like foreshadowed what was to come. It did it really, really well. So there's got to be a little bit of a distinction between like this movie and some of the past ones that have had like really strong openings.
Well, yeah. I mean, this movie it sets the tone of what the movie's to come. Also, we get in this scene the very important 3 rules, which say them with me. We'll each say one. I'll say the first one. Don't shine bright light at him. Sunlight can kill him. Lydia, what's the other one?
Don't get them wet.
Yep. Derek.
And whatever you do, never feed them after midnight.
Yes, iconic rules. Iconic rules.
Actually,
creature.
I got questions. I got questions. So
there's tons of questions that are
Central Standard Time. Is that Eastern?
Just after your local midnight. That's what it is. That's what Chris Columbus says. It's at your local midnight. Also, I mean, you could also say, why don't they multiply in snow? Because it's technically water, but it's not purely water. So,
you know what? I would have put not necessarily midnight if I were him. I would have said, never let them eat after the moon is at its peak, or something like that. That would have made more sense than like midnight.
I guess, but
anyway,
what are you going to do on like a cloudy day?
Well, I mean, the moon is technically
I don't
still
think
there.
it's at its peak yet.
They're not little werewolves.
Yeah. This movie was in color, by the way. Speaking of werewolves.
I'm going to walk out of here.
He's just going to
and
storm
I'm gonna
away.
Come back. I'm going to write a very sternly written letter is what I'm going to do.
Dear guys, I know the difference between black and white and color. Sometimes. Derek.
You guys are so mean to me.
So then we get introduced to our main characters. We're introduced to Billy, played by Zach Galligan, and he's trying to get his crappy bug. Is that a bug? What kind of car is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bug. Trying to get it to start. It's not doing anything. He has his sidekick, Barney, who's a good boy in his car.
It has made an appearance in another movie we covered.
Yep. Which movie was that, Lydia?
Pumpkinhead.
That's correct.
What?
You don't remember
this
that?
Dog was in Pumpkinhead.
Yeah. It's little Billy's dog, right? He's just a fan of Billy's.
Right? No kidding.
Follows Billy's around. So, so he's trying to get to work. His car won't start. He runs into Mr. Futterman, his neighbor, who starts bitching about foreign cars. As one does. He's an old World War II pilot. And played by the great and late Dick Miller, who was in every Joe Dante movie. This is probably his greatest role, though. This is probably greatest role. I really do enjoy him in The Burbs as well when we get to that one as a trash man. But this is his biggest. This character is his biggest. His role is much bigger in Gremlins 2.
It is.
And he's awesome in it. So Billy gets to the bank, and if you guys watch this whole scene, we're introduced to different characters. We're introduced to Corey Feldman's character. Little Corey Feldman made this the same year he made Friday the 13th Part 4. And a year before he made The Goonies. This movie
That's some fun
is,
trivia.
I think, where Steven Spielberg first basically was aware of him, was with Gremlins. And then that's when he cast him in Goonies. And then the couple years, that run he had where he was in Stand By Me and then The Lost Boys, which we will definitely cover. Don't you worry, we're going to cover The Lost Boys at some point. So he's like dressed as a little tree. He's the son of the tree salesman. And then we're introduced to the sheriff. We're introduced to all these little characters. Billy goes to the bank. He ties Barney up. And we're introduced to Phoebe Cates' character. What's her name in this movie? Kate, right? Yeah, Kate. Yep. We're introduced to Kate. And she's having him sign a petition, and you could already tell the chemistry between these two. You know, they like each other for sure.
When they're like this close to each other's faces, talking, just having a conversation. Oh yeah, hi, how are you?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, we're fine. Then they look at each other. That's how Derek and I have conversations. I'm like, hey, Derek, how's it going? And then I turn and he goes, it's good. How are you? Mostly because we can't hear because we're old. So. What are you going to do? So then we're introduced to the most evil woman to ever live, Mrs. Dingle.
Yep.
The worst.
She comes in because she says Barney broke her snowman. And she says she's going to murder this dog. She wants to take him and put him to sleep, or else she would like basically fry him to death.
Yeah. Because she's like, you know, you let me have that dog and I'll take him to the shelter and they'll put him to sleep, which is a far better, essentially death that he would get compared to what she would do to him. Man, I would have slapped that lady in the
And then she describes putting the dog in the dryer.
Yeah. Spin cycle.
Like,
she's
what?
the evilest part about this movie.
She is
the Gremlins are secondary
part.
to her.
Yeah. 100%.
She has those horrible drawn-on eyebrows.
She is an amazing actress because you just really hate her.
Love it.
I can't even describe how violent I feel when I see her come in there and start threatening a little cute dog.
And then Barney hears this and he's like, hell no, unties himself, jumps up and barks at her, and then Billy pulls him away and she's like, oh, my heart. Oh.
Yeah.
And she's totally faking it. She's like, I'll get you next time. Oh.
Yeah. And
we have to mention
how great is the dog when he's just like every single scene of this movie that the dog is in is pure gold. Like, that dog is the best actor I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's great. We have to mention
she's doing that and he like looks at her and makes her flinch.
I like when she's talking, he's under there and he's listening and he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, no. We forgot to mention that her husband owned all of this basically is super rich. So she's basically buying people out of everything and she's dishoming people and she's working with the bank. She's an awful person. So this family comes up to her and asks her if she can have a little bit more time to pay stuff or if she could get some help. And she tells them, well, now you know what to ask Santa Claus for Christmas.
I know, dude, this part broke my heart. And like whenever Mrs. Dingle leaves, the little kid's like, "Mom, I'm hungry," and she's like, "Me too." And then they walk away. I'm like, it's right there.
Also in this scene, we're introduced to a character who had a much bigger part in the script than they do in the original script and they do in the finished. But we're introduced to Judge Reinhold's character of Gerald. What do you guys think of Gerald?
Oh man, he made what? Branch manager at 23, something like that.
Vice manager at 23. I'll have his job by the time I'm 30.
No, I'm 26, and I'll be a millionaire by the time I'm 30.
That's it. Yeah.
What a jerk.
Yeah, what a jerk.
Which, by the way,
In the
before we
original
move
draft,
past here, we need to do a poll in the comments. If you think that Miss Dingle is a Black Widow, put it in the comments below. I'm pretty sure she killed her husband.
Oh, that's
she's
possible.
that evil.
She might be like the Black Widow from Addams Family Values.
I was gonna say Marvel movies. No, not that one.
I was gonna say Carol Baskins, because I bet she fed him to her cats.
That's great.
She's got a bunch of cats.
I'm gonna put a comment in here that says Mrs. Dingle is equal to Carol Baskins.
I'll be looking for that one. I forgot what I was gonna say now. So yeah, we're at this bank, and that whole scene happens, and he yells at him, whatever. So then the next scene is at the bar, which is where we are. What do you guys think of that whole opening scene where we're introduced to all these characters? Joe Dante is brilliant at this. I feel like he does something similar in The Burbs, where early in the movie, at the opening scene, we go through and we're introduced to every single, like, the big players in the movie.
I've got a word that comes to mind. It felt very organic. Right? It didn't feel pushed. You didn't feel like, oh, we're introducing this character, or we're setting this character up in this like weird way, or we're not going to tie it back to anything. Like, it just felt so natural, the progression of this scene.
And they're relatable characters that you feel like you know who they are within a short amount of time. You're like, okay, I know Billy is a great guy. I know she's she must be a super sweet girl, and they're kind of into each other. And then there's this jerk. You know exactly who they all are.
So the next scene at the bar is where we see more. I mean, it doesn't really progress much. It's just Gerald being an asshole. He says at one point, "You haven't seen my new apartment." She says, "I never saw your old apartment."
Yeah, that's a great one. And I beg to differ, sir. This sets up one of the best scenes in the entire movie.
Well, yes, it does. But I'm saying, as far as the character development, it just kind of...
That's fair, yeah.
Yeah. So we're introduced to the bar that Kate works at on the side. Her side hustle, as it were. So she works at the bar, and then where Billy goes home after his whole day, and he goes and sees his mom, who is watching It's a Wonderful Life. There's this running gag with this this sword on the wall, which pays off later. But every time somebody comes in and shuts the door, the sword falls off the wall. It's like the most inconvenient decoration you could have.
The whole house is inconvenient with all the inventions everywhere.
It gets so great. It gets so great with these inventions. She's, making dinner. He asks her if she needs help, like a good son. We find out that he's supporting the whole family because his dad's not making any money with his inventions, and she doesn't work. So the bank's after their house as well. And Billy's trying to make it all happen. And she's making the food, and you could tell she's sad about their life situation, basically. And it's kind of heartbreaking. It's a very nuanced little performance here. So Billy
Mhm.
goes to make eggs, and that's where we introduced our first new Peltzer invention, which is like the egg cracker. It's not like a conveyor belt, and it has like chickens that peck them open, but it just messes everything up.
They all just fall out.
Yeah.
So then Rand arrives home with Gizmo, and he turns down the lights, and we see Gizmo for the first time. Do you guys remember seeing Gizmo for the first time as kids?
Yes, I do. But looking through real quick, looking through the character list on here, I did not know that he was voiced by Howie Mandel.
You didn't know that? Yeah, that's Howie Mandel
I did not
as
know.
the voice of Gizmo.
No.
That was one of his talent. Remember that he kind of used a similar voice for Bobby in Bobby's World.
Yeah, I remember. I remember the skits he used to do with that
With
voice
Bobby?
in his
Yeah.
comedy bit.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
he got a Mockingbird one. Anyway, off topic.
We'll talk about Little Monsters sometime, maybe.
Oh yeah,
That's horror adjacent enough. But yeah, so he comes in with Gizmo, turns down the lights. We're introduced to him for the first time, and the mom goes to take a picture of him and uses the flash, scares Gizmo, and that's when he tells Billy the important rules, the 3 rules
Yep.
we stated. And so Billy goes upstairs with Gizmo, and he starts. There's like a little bonding scene upstairs, which is really. What do you guys think of the upstairs bonding scene?
Like when he
he
takes
would
him up
never.
there and plays
Yes.
piano and stuff.
He plays piano with him, and yeah,
I love it.
yeah, it's that ET vibe, right? You get that ET vibe on it.
hmm
Because he's like
I agree.
intelligent, like more intelligent than any like pet, like a domesticated pet that anybody would have,
Right. He's got his own personality.
Yeah.
So he's playing the piano and he's hitting each note that he's playing, and it's just so cute. Then he falls and hurts his head, and falls into the trash can because of the lights.
Super dangerous trash can.
Yeah, yeah. So he wraps his little head up. Wrap.
Yeah, he would never make it as a field nurse.
No, it's so funny though.
Yeah. Oh my
So
gosh.
funny. But this little bonding scene I really like. He wakes up the next morning going to make orange juice.
Orange juice.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he uses his dad's peeling juicer. And this thing, so he like debates on it, then he decides to do it, and it starts coming out in this clump, and then it just explodes everywhere, just sprays.
Yeah, but for like a split second, he's like, "Oh, this is doing exactly what it should," because
Yeah, yeah.
squirting out. And then it's like, instead of one, he put like 50 of them in there because it
It just exploded
Yeah.
everywhere. And then that's when Pete comes over, and the whole kitchen is just covered in orange pulp and orange goop. And he's like, oh, I thought your dad fixed that. So did I. And they go upstairs, and he's changing, and he throws a blanket over Gizmo. Doesn't even see him. Gizmo is watching watching a movie with Clark Gable, a racing movie with Clark Gable, which comes back and is very important later. And he's watching. He's going. As he's watching it. And Pete throws the blanket over him on accident when he's looking at the comic books, and Billy shows him Gizmo, and there's a red herring in this. He's holding a glass of milk by him the entire time, and you're thinking he's going to spill that milk on him. He doesn't. Billy takes Gizmo over, he sings, he goes to grab him and knocks over his paintbrushes, which have water in them. And Gizmo starts freaking out, guys, and fur balls start flying out of his back. Do you guys remember when you seen this as a kid and did that disturb you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. I was from like that point on. I was really afraid of the little white puff balls that you use like when you like have poison ivy,
Oh,
the cotton balls. I was afraid of them. I wasn't
Well-
actually afraid of them, but
Well, at least it didn't. At least you didn't gain a fear of water and quit showering. So it could have been worse.
that's true.
Mom,
I
not
do-
showering again.
Yeah, I do actually like think about those little just balls of fur, little tiny baby new gremlins. Like I just think about them a lot for some reason. Like anytime I see anything small and fuzzy, I'm like baby gremlin.
Yeah, is that a baby gremlin?
Yes.
Oh no, it's just a
Baby
hairball.
Mogwai. It's just fuzz. I don't know. Never mind.
Dude, it's the effect is so interesting because, like, first of all, let's talk about Gizmo as an effect because he's incredible.
Yes.
He has such great range of motion with his face,
Mhm.
and you believe he's alive. You know, they
Mhm.
make you believe he's alive. Very similar to the effect of ET. You know, you believe ET's there.
Mhm.
So it makes you feel for this inanimate object, but he's a great effect, and the gremlins themselves are great effects. We'll get into them when the actual gremlins come.
Mhm.
But the way he's like kind of, you know, writhing, and his back starts like, and then
Yeah.
they pop out. It's like so weird. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when it's you see it like sitting on the table and it's small and it starts to expand.
Expand. Yeah.
And that is such a cool effect.
Yeah. So he ends up with 5 Mogwai instead of Gizmo. And you know, Billy wants one. He's like, "Can I have one?" Or Pete wants one. "Can I have one now?" And Billy's like, "No, I don't think so." And he's like, "This one has a little stripe on his head." And he goes to pet him, and Stripe tries to bite his finger. That's your first indication that these guys aren't like Gizmo. And Gizmo looks like utterly distraught
Yeah.
at this moment. And Pete has nothing to do with it after he almost gets his finger bit. He goes over and starts reading his comics, and he's like, "It's really cool." No, seriously, it is. I mean it, seriously.
Yes.
that reaction kills
That's
me.
the cutest thing. He's like,
It
no,
is.
seriously.
Who is he? I'm serious.
Yeah.
So cute.
So great. So,
I did know.
so Billy goes to tell his dad, Rand, about this new discovery. And he's up in his invention lab tweaking the bathroom buddy with the new shaving part or whatever. And Billy's like, "Oh, what's this button doing?" It sprays him all with shaving cream. And he's like, "No, that's
Which he
fine.
eats,
That's
by the way.
Yeah, he does eat part of it." He's like, "No, that's fine. It's my fault. I should have warned you. You know, I haven't fixed that part yet. I haven't fixed that part."
I'm gonna get to that next year.
Yeah. Yeah. So he tells him, "Dad, the Mogwai multiply with water." And he's like, "What?" You know, he has his glasses on. He's like, "Huh?" And he goes down and sees the Mogwai. And he thinks that this is his next great invention.
Yep.
He's like, "Think about it. A Peltzer pet in every house." First of all, you can't just take a creature that patented as your own. That's not how it works.
You did not invent that. That's a typical human, though. Way to
It
go.
is a typical human. Oh God. He's like, ah, yes, the Peltzer pet. I found it, so therefore I created it. So we get, we get some scenes of them like interacting with each other and stuff, and Billy goes to bed and he hears Barney like whining essentially, and he's like, "What's wrong with Barney?" So he goes downstairs and he finds Barney tied up outside in the lights, strung up in the lights, and he saves him. And he, of course, thinks it's Mrs. Deagle because she's evil, which is a good guess. It's as good a guess as any.
That's a legitimate guess.
Yeah, I would think that too, after what she said and did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Monster. So, he goes to stay with I think his grandparents, right? He goes to stay with Mr. Peltzer's parents while he goes to the convention. Is that who he stays with? Because Barney leaves. They send Barney away with Mr. Peltzer, because Mr. Peltzer picks him up on his way back from the convention, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can't see who I think that's who it is. Like he stays with the grandparents. But he leaves while he goes and does his convention, because Mr. Peltzer leaves. It's Christmas Eve. He goes to do his invention convention. Knee slapper of a name. And Billy wants to know what the heck's up with these Mogwai. So he brings one into the professor at school, one of the science teacher. Yeah. Mr. Hansen. And he's like, hey, this is what happens. He drops water on it. Bloop, and it multiplies. So Mr. Hansen's like, can I keep one of these to study it overnight? And he's like, sure. So Billy walks home and walks by the bar and runs into Mr. Futterman and Kate. And before we get into this scene, what do you guys think of Billy dropping the Mogwai off to the science teacher? I mean, that's definitely a kid for you, right?
Yeah, I was thinking like this thing was just born, and you're just gonna drop it off, and that teacher doesn't stay all night with it. The teacher leaves it. Yeah. Alone on its first day on Earth.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that to any baby. You don't just leave them anywhere. I know they're not like infant little things, they're kind of just like
they're pretty much fully formed. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just like, you don't know anything about these creatures, and you're just gonna leave it to be studied by somebody.
Yeah. Well, he probably didn't expect the teacher. He probably didn't expect the teacher to like just leave it there overnight.
Right?
I'm assuming. Yeah. He probably thought the teacher was gonna study it, take it home, whatever. But because Billy's not a bad guy, but that's
just
such
not
a
a responsible guy. He's not a responsible guy.
And that comes into play later.
The whole lesson.
That's the whole lesson of the movie. It's the whole lesson of the movie. So this bar scene with Kate, Mr. Futterman, and Billy is where we start to. This movie's so good. Chris Columbus' script is so good at like weaving in everything. Because Mr. Futterman at this point, he's super drunk, and he starts talking about foreign cars again, foreign shit, and he says that they bring gremlins over. That's what took down all their planes in World War II. They put gremlins in your TV. They put them in your car. Put them in your watch. They have little tiny gremlins for your watch. And he's like, so there's the gremlins are out there, and he's super drunk. He's gonna drive his damn snowplow home, and she tells him, Kate says, which is great, especially in 1984. Says, hey, I don't think you should be driving. You're a little too drunk for that. You should walk home. And he's like, you know what?
Mhm.
I think I'm going to walk home. It's a nice night. So he leaves the two
Very
lovebirds to walk. Yes. So he leaves you see that he's like a crotchety old man, but he loves these kids. He's nice to the kids and everything. So we get them walking home, and she says she hates Christmas, which we find out the story for this later, and we will dive into this story when we get to there.
Oh,
It's
good.
one of the
I'm
best
glad
parts of this movie.
I'm not the only one.
It's one of the best parts of this movie. We'll dive into it. But she says she hates Christmas, and he's like, why? It's the best day or whatever. And she's like, why is it that if I say I hate any other day, people don't give a shit, but if I say I hate Christmas, people give me the third degree, essentially. And she's just like, I just don't like it. Okay, this time of year is horribly depressing for some people. It makes people want to open up their veins. Like, it's just a bad time for some people, which is true, really.
Well, she gives that statistic, and I didn't have time to look it up, but I'm interested to see if it's true or not.
Yeah, I mean, I know that self-harm and suicide rates rise during the holidays. That is true.
There's some legitimacy to it. That's interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is a thing.
Although, if this character were around today and she said you hated Christmas, watch out. That's all I gotta say. Watch out.
They probably think she, burned a Christmas tree. Little topical humor for you.
Yep.
What do you guys think of this scene?
Of them walking home together?
Mm-hmm.
Is this when she tells the story?
No, she tells the story at the bar later. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But he asked the scene ends with him asking her out sometime, and her basically saying,
it's very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that they're both like, he's like not too, he's not like overly confident, but he's like, he just goes for it. Like, and you don't see that in a lot of movies. It's like usually people like stumbling over themselves and like can't get, but he just like genuinely likes her and is like, you know what, you want to go on a date sometime?
Yeah. I mean, if you're me,
when your day off,
you get an opportunity to dance with them, and you just tell them you can't dance and walk away. That's how I roll.
I can't dance. It's like, who are you?
That's a pretty good one.
So this next scene, Billy is chilling with Gizmo upstairs. This is one of my favorites. I love that Gizmo's just laying in bed watching the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes.
And the other Mogwais are in their like little bed, and they're like, and he's like, Billy says, I fed you guys already. And he looks over and sees that it's 11:45 or 11:35 or something like that. Not midnight. He's like, well, it's before midnight.
Close, man. It's too close.
Yep. So he goes and grabs a whole giant plate of chicken that was in the fridge, just not covered or anything, by the way.
Fried chicken. Giant heaping plate that he did not ask if he could just take it and feed it to these little monsters.
He's just like, whatever. He just dumps the plate in there, and they start flying everywhere.
I can't get over this. I can't get over this plate of fried chicken, guys, because that plate of fried chicken was in their fridge. It's not easy to just make that much fried chicken. That mom made all of that fried chicken for something, not for Gremlins. That's not like, oh, I'll make some fried chicken for these gremlins to have as a midnight snack. No,
Hey, guys.
he took a giant plate.
So Lydia, your chicken rant, are you finished with it?
I could go on and on about this chicken in the fridge. Like, why? Why did he take that whole plate of fried chicken to feed to little gremlins? Like, that's not what gremlins should be eating. I don't know what gremlins should be eating, but I'm
To
pretty
be
sure
fair,
it's not
yeah,
a
we don't
giant
know
plate
their
of fried
diet.
chicken.
We don't know their diet. That's
It's
for
not
sure.
fried chicken though. It's just not.
Giving him some popcorn or something and call it a night.
Yeah, like
Toss in some baby food. There you go.
it's just
Apples,
It's just
probably.
insane. And
Not
that
too much
just
moisture.
leads me to other questions because it's like, do they have litter boxes in the house? Like,
Yes, that's a good question as well. So he feeds him this chicken. It flies everywhere. And then he and Gizmo fall asleep. Gizmo's
he offers
face is
Gizmo a piece.
yeah, and he says no because he knows
Yeah.
it's after midnight.
Yeah, he's like, no, not hungry.
So Gizmo's watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
And his face is horrified as he's watching it. He's like watching this damn movie, and he dozes off watching it. And they both fall asleep. And when they wake up, all of the Mogwai are gross, slimy cocoons.
Yes.
What do you guys...
It's almost like too spot on that they were watching Body Snatchers. I was like, why? It's too spot on because then they just wake up and there's like
wake up to pods.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah,
and terrifying.
What do you guys think of the designs of these pods? They look great, right?
Yeah, they're like slimy and glowy, and yeah, they're pretty good.
So they turned into these cocoons, and he calls his mom up. He's like, "Mom?" She comes up to the attic and sees that all of these gremlins are these cocoons now, and it, of course, she's freaked out by it. So he goes back to see the science teacher, So the science teacher, Mr. Hansen, when he leaves, the gremlin grabs a hold of his sandwich that he has, and he eats it, and he cocoons. So he's cutting it out of this cage that he had it in, and he's telling Billy and Pete that this is the pupal stage, that he's going through metamorphosis like a butterfly. When he comes out, he'll be different, have a different personality. It'll be just a different, kind of different animal. So, these guys hatch, essentially, is what ends up happening next. That's the next big thing. They hatch. And Billy is gone when it hatches at home, and Mr. Hansen has class. Class ends. They're watching stuff on heartbeats. And Mr. Hansen is our first death of the movie.
Yes.
He sees that the creature's escaped. He sees that it's gone. So he goes to feed it. And because we don't quite see what it looks like, we see its shadow and such. And he goes to feed it, and it grabs him by his arm and basically attacks him. And we cut. And Billy goes to visit Mr. Hansen and finds him dead on the ground with the needle in his butt because he drew blood from the gremlin. So the gremlin, got his revenge by sticking him with the needle after he killed him. And
which I think is, for me, I think this is the scariest scene of the movie. That's me personally. I think this scene, I remember it actually scaring me when I watched it when I was younger. The
It is very suspenseful.
suspense, yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's very
suspense
suspenseful.
is so good because you got the projector going,
Yeah,
and it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I remember being like really freaked out by this because up until this point, it's all like pretty happy stuff going on
hmm
and like silly and comedy and a little bit of
What do you
drama.
What do you think of this scene, Derek? The professor's death.
Yeah, so you have no idea what this thing turned into, and you're just gonna stick your hand underneath this desk of where it's at with a candy bar in your hand. Like, that's like the dumbest thing you
This-
could do.
The scientist isn't the smartest. The science teacher is not the smartest. Yeah, so Billy sees this and he gets attacked by the gremlin. And it goes through the ductwork and it scratches his hand. His hand's bleeding everywhere, so he wraps it up. Meanwhile, back at the Peltzer residence, they hatch. And she starts hearing them upstairs. She hears something, so she goes up, grabs the knife. She's making cookies, little gingerbread men. She grabs a knife, goes upstairs,
Little.
and sees, well, it's a huge knife. Oh,
No,
they are
it's a-
huge gingerbread men.
huge
They are,
gingerbread cookies.
they are huge, guys. They're huge ones. That's my kind of gingerbread man.
Yeah.
Don't give me any gingerbread man under 6 feet. So, they use their little, she goes upstairs and she sees that the cocoons are open. And Billy calls and he's like, Mom, they're hatching. Get out of the house. And one of the gremlins pulls the plug. And this, I think, is the scariest scene of the movie. To me, is this whole attack scene. The attack scene is the most fun, but there's one very scary moment in the scene. To me. So she encounters the first gremlin in the kitchen. They build the suspense by seeing the shadows on the wall. We encounter our first gremlin. He's munching on one of those cookie heads. He's got the icing all over his face, and he goes into the mixer to see if there's any more, and she shoves him in and frappes that boy. He's gone.
Yeah.
He's frapped. I always loved that as a kid. I always thought that was the best. Such a memorable kill. So she frappes him, and then the next guy starts throwing plates at her. So she blocks him with a tray, and she just flat out stabs that dude. Stabs him. And then she's attacked by a third one. And this was also one of my favorites when I was a kid. She throws him in the microwave
Oh yeah.
and nukes him. What do you guys think of this little kitchen scene?
I love this scene. I love it. This is another one of my favorite scenes in this movie. Like I said, this is a comfort movie for me. This scene, as soon as I hear the "Do you hear what I hear?" like
So
record
great.
come back
So
on,
great.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh no. Like and she is so perfect in this scene too, because her panic of just like, and then
And
she's
she
like,
becomes
no,
like a
I'm gonna-
badass. Yeah.
Yes. She's like so scared, but she's like, I have to take care of this right now. Like, she's got no other choice but to like handle it.
She goes ham on him. I mean, she takes out 3 in a span of
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna say Linda Hamilton better watch out because this lady
Yeah.
turned into the Terminator.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Gremlins.
She dominated. Love it. So she hears something out in the living room and she sees a stocking swaying and it's moving. So she thinks there's a gremlin in there. So the suspense is building and she walks up to it and she slices it. It's one of those weird walking robot guys, which is that for Billy? How old does she think Billy is?
That's such a good point. And like, why is it on? Why is it moving at this point?
I'm assuming that one of the gremlins set it off. That I could believe.
Right.
But why the fuck's it in there to begin with?
And like, did it not make you guys nervous that that stocking was hanging directly, like, in front of the fire?
Pretty
like,
close. Pretty
it's
close.
a little too close for comfort for me.
Too big to be hanging there.
Yeah.
Too big.
Mhm.
It's almost touching the flames.
I feel like you had a little extra fear from that one, Derek.
Oh yeah, this time around for sure.
Yeah. You're like, scariest part of the movie. Move it, move it.
Get that fire out of here.
So this is where I think is one of the scariest moments and best moments, one of the coolest. She's looking for, so that gremlin's not there, and she starts backing up. And in the Christmas tree, you see the gremlin's red eyes glow
Yeah.
over her shoulder before it attacks her. That is phenomenal. That's
Yes.
phenomenal. I love that so much because it blends in with the lights, and
Yeah.
then you realize that it's its eyes.
Yes.
So cool. So it attacks her with the tree. She's basically fighting a Christmas tree, and this gremlin on top of her, and it
Yes.
scratched her, and it's like beat her up. Billy finally makes it home from running from the school, and he walks in and grabs that sword that keeps falling off the wall and slices that gremlin's head off, decapitates him, and it flies into the fire. And then it makes this sound as it's burning. And then Stripe escapes out the window into the ether. What do you think of this bit of the scene? Like, just this whole scene in general, but the Christmas tree bit.
It makes me think of the alternate script
Yes.
of what the scene could have been if this movie would have taken a different direction.
And that was a really early draft, like first draft, before they knew
Yes.
what this movie was. Yeah.
Yes.
You know about this draft, Derek?
I don't.
I can't help but think of it. Ever since I heard it, I was mind blown that this was supposed to be like an actual like gory horror film. And the mom was, I'm pretty sure, supposed to be decapitated in this scene.
Yeah. Have her head, Billy was going to see her head roll down the stairs. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
And
really
I
early
always-
draft.
I can't help but think of that like every time.
Before Chris Columbus knew what the movie was, before he met with Steven Spielberg and company, and originally Gizmo was going to be Stripe, like it was going to be one and the same. And then when Spielberg came aboard, he was like, "No, man, Gizmo should be his own guy. Look, he's great." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right. They're two separate entities. Got it." And that's how we got the movie we get.
Amazing.
Spielberg's the master of shepherding, man.
Mm-hmm.
He and our other Lord and Savior, John Carpenter, should hang out at all times. So, this is where the fun begins, right? So the mayhem ensues. He drops Mom off at the neighbors. Billy does. He goes and picks up Gizmo, who fell down the laundry chute. Which, by the way, he also was tied up to a dartboard and they were throwing darts at him.
I really feel bad for Gizmo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. So he takes him and puts him in his backpack, and they track down Stripe, who jumps in the pool and
At the
multiplies
YMCA, yeah.
at the YMCA. It multiplies. So there's gremlins everywhere. There's this great shot that's stop motion. This great stop motion shot where you see them come over the horizon and there's just an army of gremlins. You know what shot I'm talking about?
Yes. Stop motion.
Uh-huh.
Love it.
So great. So this is where we get to see what these gremlins can do, man, as far as the not gremlins the characters, but also gremlins the animatronics, the puppets, because they're amazing. These puppets are amazing. They do such a great job with them. So they start wreaking havoc throughout the town. Basically, there's just a montage of mayhem that starts happening. Mr. Futterman is trying to watch his TV, and it starts going on the fritz, and he, of course, blames the foreign TV and says he should have bought a Zenith. So it's such an Zenith. I haven't thought about them since the 90s. Do you remember Zenith?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's going to go up to the roof to see. He looks and sees, because they're crawling all over the antenna. By the time he gets over there, they're not. And they attack his, they take his snowplow and attack him with it. And they ram it through his house. He runs and hides. He grabs his wife. They plow it through the house, and he sees them. And he says, "Gremlins! There's little gremlins!" And we are led to believe that the gremlins killed him with a snowplow.
Yeah.
Now, if we wouldn't have seen Gremlins 2, we might have thought that. But we find out in Gremlins 2 that the Futtermans survive, which is good. When I rewatched this the first time after a while, and it got to their scene, I was like, but Futterman's in Gremlins 2. I know he is. I've seen that movie like 1 billion times. And I was like, oh, yeah. They retconned it. He's alive. Okay, gotcha. They wanted to bring him back. Mrs. Deagle finally gets her comeuppance here shortly.
Oh, yeah.
So there's just mayhem throughout the city. We see like one of them messes with the traffic lights and turn them all green, so cars crash. We see explosions in the street. We see a guy that goes to deliver mail, and they throw the mail back at him out of the mailbox. And the one dude puts his hand in and gets attacked by the gremlin. I like to believe actually what happens is he looks in there and it's Jim Carrey with a lighter and trying to see if it's the dolphin's ring.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Good call.
So then so Billy at this time goes to the sheriff's department, shows them Gizmo, and says, "There's gremlins out there." They don't believe him, and the sheriff and the deputy are idiots. Essentially, the deputy's really deadly, and
they're drunk.
Very drunk. They're just like, nothing happens in this town.
Dude, their little back and forth at the end of the scene when they're leaving. And he's like, well,
yeah.
Why won't you ever let me drive? And he's like, because I'm the sheriff, you
asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, that's hilarious.
That is funny.
So they get a call about the Futtermans. So they go to investigate, and as they're on their way, they run into this accident, which is Mrs. Deagle's in her house, and the gremlins attack her. So basically, she's in one of those electric, what do you call them? Like stair chairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, stair chair. Lift, yeah. And so she's in that. She's writing it down. She has like 47 cats. Of course she does.
You knew she was a cat lady.
Yeah, definitely. So the gremlins mess up her shit, and she ends up getting rocketed out of the window.
It's
What do you
just
think
so
of
brutal.
what do you think of this scene?
It's so like the whole scene. You see her in this crazy house. It's like pretty extravagant rich house, and there's just cats everywhere. And I love this one part where she's like naming each cat, and she's like picks up the one and tries to set it on the table, and the cat's claw snags on her sweater.
Yeah.
Cat
Yeah.
clearly hates her. This cat is like hissing, and she's like, "Oh, hang on." It's like clearly that was not scripted, but it just
She stayed in
happens.
character though. It's beautiful.
Yes, yeah. And then she is so terrible because she hears the caroling of the
That's
gremlins.
so funny.
It's so
funny.
good. She's so mad and angry and terrible, and she goes out and she's like threatening to like throw water
ready to
on
kill
them or
them.
something.
Yeah.
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 And she's like, she sees them, and her immediate thought is that they're like demons coming to get her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she knows. She just
That she's
knows
evil.
she's so evil.
Yeah, she knows she's evil. Yeah.
Ugh. It's so worth it to just see
The
that
caroling
after.
is the caroling is the first hint of things to come about these
Yeah.
gremlins' personality. That's it.
Yes.
That's the first step.
Yes, it's really funny.
Yeah, so good. So then she, so she skyrockets out. The cops see it. While they're seeing what's going on here, they pull their brake line. And then the Santa Claus comes out with like 800 gremlins on him. And so they're like, he's like, I want to go back to the office now.
Yeah, they're really great officers that they see a man getting attacked, and they're like, "Let's go, let's get out of here."
So they
Let's go call the cops.
They don't. Yeah, exactly. So they wreck their car. They cause another car to explode, and this is the best scene of the movie, guys. So Billy goes and gets his car working, and he drives off. And then we cut to the bar.
My favorite.
My absolute favorite scene of this movie. Yeah. There's just so much to talk about in this scene alone. All the little bits and jokes. We have them playing cards, and Stripe shoots one of them. We have one of the gremlins dressed up like a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have my absolute favorite joke, which is a flash dance joke. We have the gremlin wearing the leg warmers, doing the dance, shaking his hips.
Yeah, like a little music video.
So funny. Just so crazy and so funny.
Yeah. You got the one that like flashes. He's like got a little trench coat on.
Yeah, he flashes Kate.
Yeah, he's got like a little cigarette and little glasses.
I also love that they're leaving her alone because she's serving them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And she's like trying to light the ones like 3 cigarettes, and he every time she like holds it up to him, he's like, ah.
Yeah.
With fire.
I like the one puppets.
The puppet show.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Is that the one he shoots? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So then they
If I didn't think that we would get hit with a copyright infringement, we would include that whole scene.
yeah, no shit. I know, exactly. We definitely get hit though. Definitely
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
hit. But we'll include snippets of it. But so then she takes a picture of one of them, and she realizes that the flash hurts them. So she starts flashing them all with the camera to make them, so she can get out of there. And then she's held up by one that's a robber. He has like a ski mask on and the gun.
And really bad aim.
And she's out of pictures, so
Flashes.
she can't take another. She can't snap it.
Yeah.
And Billy comes in with the lights, and it distracts him. And he comes up to the bar, and they try to get in the car and run away, but the car won't start, so they run on foot and they hoof it back to the bank. And this, you guys, is where we get the infamous Christmas Story.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So they're at the bank. She basically shares with Billy why she hates Christmas so much. And the reason is this. One year, her dad didn't come home for Christmas, essentially, from the office. They're waiting on him Christmas Eve. Didn't come. They called the office. The office said he left. They couldn't find him. It was getting late. Time passed. She started to get cold, so she goes to light a fire, and she smells this smell. They think the dad ran away or lost or something. And come to find out, her dad tried to come down the chimney with presents and broke his neck and has been decomposing in their attic or in their chimney. And she said, that's why I don't like Christmas. What do you guys think of this story? And how glad are you that it got to stay in the script?
It is a horrifying story.
Yes.
It's so disturbing, especially as a little girl watching this. I was like horrified at this story. I mean it really scared me as a little girl. I was a daddy's girl for sure. And I was very like protective of like my parents even. Like that's how I was just like I'm sure I probably like said something to my dad like, "Dad, don't go down the chimney." Like I don't want that happening.
Don't do it.
That's a nightmare situation. It's horrible.
I've got a completely different perspective on this.
Go ahead.
The stupidity of that poor guy. Like, so if you're thinking about this, why would you do that? Maybe you would do it if you knew that your little girl was like there and she saw you coming down the chimney and she was like, "Oh, there's Santa." But then I don't get it, man. Like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So your only conclusion is this guy is an idiot. That's the only thing
I just always used to, when we were young, every year for Christmas, we'd go to my grandma's mom's house, so my great grandma's, for Christmas Eve. And every year, Santa Claus would be there. And Santa Claus would always come in ringing his jingle bells, and he'd walk right through the back door. And not one of those kids was like, "Why aren't you coming through the chimney, you son of a bitch?"
You know what? And if you decide that you want to try this, at least have like somebody on the roof that's like, "Hey man, if I get stuck, I need you to pull me out. Because this is a chimney and I don't know if I can fit down it."
He didn't get stuck though. He slipped and broke his neck.
And broke his neck.
Even
And
more
died
recently, you
instantly.
should have somebody to spot you.
Terrible idea. It is a terrible idea for sure.
I love this story because it's such a dark story, and
It's so dark.
it's such a character beat for Kate. It gives her dimension. It fleshes her out. You know why she hates Christmas now. Gives her a little more meat on the bone, as it were. Instead of just being the love interest. She's got a story. You know what I mean? And it's such a unique story that nowadays, with the way things are ran by committees for big corporations on movies, that would be one of the first things to go. One of the first things to go.
True.
But, luckily it was produced by Steven Spielberg. He's like, nah, that shit's got to stay. Which, if you look, you can see a bunch of different nods to Spielberg movies, by the way. On the marquee, and of the movie theater. It
Mhm.
says Watch the Skies in A Boy's Life.
Mm-hmm.
A Boy's Life was the original working title for E.T. And Watch the Skies was the original title to Close Encounters
Close
of the Third
Encounter.
Kind. Mhm.
Wow.
Which I have a poster of right here because it's one of my all-time favorite movies. So yeah, The Christmas Story, I'm glad it's in here. It is beautiful. So a little side bit here. At this point in the script, in the earlier draft, remember how I told you Gerald had a bigger role? Gerald was here throughout this whole bit. Through the bank scene, up through the department store scene. He was like kind of Billy's buddy, even though he's kind of a jerk. He's only in those 2 scenes in the movie. 3 scenes if you count the bank, So he's a much smaller role. But they end up finding out that all of the Gremlins have converged onto the movie theater. And they sneak into the movie theater to see what they're doing. And again, one of my other favorite scenes, they're all watching Snow White and singing along with Hi Ho, Off to Work We Go. Dun, 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 dun. So great. It's so funny. She says, what are they doing? They're watching Snow White and they're loving it.
So
also
funny.
in this movie scene, the movie theater scene, you can see them their costumes. Like, they're each wearing different things. You can see them taking stuff from people they killed. Like, one of them in the front row is wearing the sheriff's hat.
That makes sense.
So,
that is one of the more ridiculous things of this movie, is that they all have like miniature things that they're holding. like the little gun that actually works and shoots.
Yeah, it's a small snub-nosed pistol. It exists. But yeah, it is really small. But dude, this
they're
movie
all
scene,
wearing tiny clothes.
yeah, dude, the tiny leg warmers, I got nothing for you. In a tiny sweatshirt, that is just too much. The Flashdance one, that's just too good.
Yes.
So in this scene, Billy says, "Where's the boiler?" and goes down to basically blow up this movie theater. Since all the Gremlins are here, he's going to end it all right now. Unfortunately, Stripe gets hungry, so he goes out to the department store because he sees candy, and he goes to eat it. So Billy successfully pulls the gas line and lights some paper on fire. And as they're going past the projection, they can see him behind the screen because the reel breaks, so they can see him behind the screen. So all the Gremlins start converging on him, and it's great. You see their shadows behind the movie screen. It's so cool. You just see all the little Grimmies.
Love that.
And they start chasing them, and they end up making it outside and barricading the door, and the whole movie theater explodes. Catches Gremlins on fire. We see Gremlins on fire. We see them exploding. The best is Stripe's reaction. He's eating his food. It blows up, and he's like, "Ah!"
Yeah.
So she spots him. Kate does. And says he's in the department store. So he grabs the toy he grabs to break the window. I used to have one of those when I was a kid. Did you have one of those, Derek?
What toy was it?
It's the one where it has like you push it and it makes the little balls pop up. It has like the dome over the top of it. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had one.
I had one of those. Yeah, I had one for sure. Did you have one, Lydia?
I don't remember back that far.
Oh, I do. I did for
Oh
sure.
yeah, remember
sure I've
she's still
seen them.
young. We're
Yeah,
old.
I know. So he uses this to break the window out, and then makes his way inside, and he's like, you take Gizmo and hide here, or go do this. I'm gonna go stop because if he go stop Stripe because if he finds water, he's gonna multiply. So he grabs a baseball bat and he gets his first kiss um, from her and heads off. And then basically he just gets his ass beat by Stripe. So like
Yeah, he does.
he like attacks him with first it's like a baseball machine essentially. Hits him with a baseball machine. He throws saw blades at him at one point. Um, Knocks him over, grabs a dart gun and shoots it into his arm. There's also this great bit during this whole scene where he's walking and there's a TV and Stripe appears on the TV and he smashes it and he appears on a bunch of TVs because he's in front of the little camcorder. I love that. Love that bit.
Very creative.
Yeah. So Billy gets the crap beat out of him. Kate accidentally turns on she's trying to turn on all the lights to hurt him, but she turns on the water fountain. And so that's where he's heading. And she can't get to the main lights because they're blocked in by the fuse box. So she's trying to pull that out. Gizmo's disappeared on her. She doesn't know where he is, and we find out where he is. Gizmo has got a mini car, and he's racing to try to save Billy.
Adorable.
This makes me want to watch the second one so bad.
Oh, yeah. When he goes Rambo?
When he goes Rambo.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, me
or
too.
when Hulk Hogan appears in the movie. One of those two.
Hulk Hogan's appearance is one of the best jokes ever. I can't wait till we get to that one. Yeah, so Gizmo's driving his little car to try to get to Billy. Billy's getting the crap beat out of him. Then the next thing he knows, he hears a chainsaw revving up. And Stripe comes at him with the chainsaw, and he's holding the baseball bat, and is just barely holding it off. It's starting to chunk it out. And she hits the lights, and it blinds him, And the chainsaw drags him away. So, meanwhile, as this is going on, Mr. Peltzer came home, and Barney, he's on his way home, and Barney jumps out of the car because he hears Billy, and knows Billy's around. So he gets out and he leads Mr. Peltzer back to the department store. Gizmo is still driving his car, trying to get to him, and Stripe appears on the fountain, and he has the gun and he's ready to kill Billy with it. And he says, Billy, shoots at him, misses a couple times, and he touches his finger into the fountain and starts to multiply. And as this is happening, Gizmo ramps his car up a shovel and crashes the crash is so funny, guys.
Yes.
It's like just and he gets up and he's like Gizmo. And then Gizmo grabs a hold of the or the shade of the place because he sees the sunlight out. Grabs it, and Stripe gets Dracula'd. He gets Dracula to death.
Yeah, he does.
He melts. He melts good, by the way.
It's so awesome.
It's so graphic, isn't it? Isn't it so?
It is.
So
you
funny?
see the little skeleton in there. It's so nasty. Yeah. And the eyeballs and the slime. It's very Evil Dead.
Yeah, very Evil Dead. especially when it falls into the fountain,
Mhm.
and then it starts like bubbling and stuff, and it pops out, and it's just like the skeleton. It starts moving, and then it just
Mhm.
collapses into like just this gunk. I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah.
The death scene is gnarly, right?
Yeah,
It is
it's
pretty
awesome.
gnarly. It turns into a big pile of boogers.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
It's
What do
not.
you guys think of this whole climax? What do you think of the whole climax here? It's a lot, but what do you think of it?
It's pretty awesome. I really like how they use Gizmo to like ramp and just rip open the sunlight right on this guy. It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They kind of tied a bow up, like to tie all of the elements from the beginning of the movie into the end, because the
Mhm.
dad is like, well, I mean, both he and like the kid who's telling him like the three rules, like never let them have exposure to sunlight; it could kill them. So it's a direct callback, and they hit every single one of those elements throughout the movie.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also like I think is an exciting, suspenseful, and fun climax as well,
Mm-hmm.
Like we get all of the things that we wanted to see the Gremlins do, and then we get to see Billy face off with Spike and how dangerous Spike could be. It's
Mm-hmm.
I love the end of this movie. So Gizmo's fine. They wrap him up in a little scarf, and they all go back home. And they're reading on the news or they're listening to the news, and the news is basically saying that it was mass hysteria is what's happening. There wasn't anything else. It's mass hysteria, and they're like whatever. And Kate grabs a thermometer and puts it in Gizmo's mouth, and she's like, "Don't chew that. Don't chew it." So cute. He's like,
Like
and
she knows
then
what the normal body temperature of a, mogwai is
yeah,
supposed to be.
yeah.
Right.
She just what else do you do? She doesn't know what to do. She's trying her best. So of course, the Mr. Wing comes back to get his Mogwai. And he's like, "Oh, this is the guy I bought the Mogwai from." And he goes, "Bought? That's an interesting phrase." And he
Yeah.
tosses the money back on the couch. And so he takes Gizmo back, and he tells them, "That's what you people do with everything. You basically you're responsible with it." He's like, "If you're not ready. You're not ready for the Mogwai. Because this is what happens when you're responsible." So he goes to leave, and as he's leaving, Gizmo says something to him, and he says, "He wanted to say something to you." And he opens up the box, and Gizmo says, "Bye, Billy." Because
Yeah.
he said, "You can understand him?" He said, "Well, all one has to do is listen to understand him." And that's the first time he understood him. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
"Bye, Billy." It's like heartbreaking, right? But also super like sweet.
Yeah. You don't want him to go. You're like, no, you can't just take him.
Yeah. So,
Dude, I love
he
how they
looks
sink
at
one last gag into the end of this movie.
what's
You know
that?
what I'm talking about? When the dad tries to give him the smokeless ashtray.
Oh, yes. I'm gonna, yeah, yeah. The Mr. Wing looks at Billy and says, "Maybe one day you will be ready." Like I can see it in you. Maybe one day you will be ready for him, and then I'll bring him back. And then, yeah, there's this bit earlier in the movie we skipped it, but when Mr. Peltzer's trying to make his way back home, he stops at this gas station and sells this guy a smokeless ashtray. He's like, "I know you got this broken ashtray here." And he sells him the smokeless ashtray. And it gets called back here when he says, I'm sorry about everything I did. As a token of my appreciation, I'd like to give you this. There's only one. Well, there's one other one, but it's a token. He's like, "It's smokeless ashtray." He says, "How do you know?" Guy at gas station tried to sell me.
Great.
We also, before we get to the very end of this movie, we need to mention your other favorite scene, Derek, the invention convention, because we just kind of glossed over it.
Yeah.
There's so much like crazy shit going on here. There's like a dude walking around with just like a fedora and sunglasses on for some reason. There's the robot. There's that weird spinning wheel.
There's the time machine. That's totally the time machine from H.G. Wells.
Yeah, sure is. So great. There's so much that we could just watch that and pick out little things. Movie's wonderful that way.
Dude, if I can find a clip of it, I'll put the robot conversation in this because it cracks me up.
One of the best. One of the best. So then we get to the very end, and Mr. Peltzer's voiceover kicks over again, and he's basically wraps up the story. It says, and Mr. Wing's walking away with the gremlin, and we get this beautiful matte painting of like the sky. You see the moon, and it's just this picturesque, gorgeous, matte painting. And he says, "So if your TV's on the fritz, if your car's acting funny, you might want to give it a second, because there might be a gremlin."
That's the story. So if your air conditioner goes on the fritz, or your washing machine blows up, or your video recorder clumps out, before you call the repairman, turn on all the lights, check all the closets and cupboards, look under all the beds, because you never can tell. There just might be a gremlin in your house.
And then, dun 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 dun. It's just a perfect ending. I love the way this movie ends. I love that little last bit. It leaves you with like that kind of mystical feel. Mm-hmm. And then the music kicks in. What do you guys think of the ending of this movie?
It makes you feel so like warm and fuzzy. Like you're like,
yeah,
it's just so good. But then you're like kind of paranoid too.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh man, my stuff has been like acting weird lately.
Yeah.
My stuff is on the fritz lately.
Maybe there is a gremlin around here. What do you think, Derek?
The hesitation I had at the beginning of this movie with the opening is the complete opposite for the end. The ending was perfect. That's how this movie should end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Couldn't end any other way. Perfect. So that's Gremlins, guys. Give our final thoughts and pumpkin ratings. Let's start with you, Derek.
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
That's one of your highest.
Yep.
Very nice.
What do you think of it? You have any other thoughts?
Oh, still me.
Yeah.
No, it's a great Christmas movie. It's a fun horror comedy, and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Lydia.
Yes, I am going to give it a 9. 9 pumpkins for Christmas. 9 little Christmas pumpkins for this one. That's what I got. This is almost a 10 for me, and I'm not exactly sure what makes it a 9 for me. I think it's just because it's more of a Christmas comedy horror, and this is like we typically do like horror.
Yeah.
So, but I recommend this movie highly to anyone who hasn't seen it. You need to see it. It's so good. It's so fun. It's a great story. I want to say it's family friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm giving it a 9. I think it's a great movie.
So I think this movie is a perfect gateway horror movie I think this is the perfect horror movie you show your kids when you feel like they're at the age where they can get into, like horror, and they're not going to be scared and have nightmares. I mean, I was watching Freddy at that age, but not everybody's grew up in the 80s like Derek and I.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is a great gateway horror movie. And it's just such a fun watch. It makes you feel warm inside, has some good chills, some good thrills, uh, great special effects, and just great, fantastic jokes. Plus, the story is really heartwarming and great. I'm going to give Gremlins an 8.5 as well. One of my all-time favorites. One of my favorite Christmas-themed horror movies in general. Uh, so yeah, we all love Gremlins. What's on the agenda for next week?
Black Christmas.
Black Christmas, another Christmas horror movie. Who would have thought that we would do such a thing? That's going to be good. Black Christmas is streaming on. Is it on Shudder still?
I haven't looked yet.
We're talking about the original one, right? 1970
Yes, correct.
something or 80 something.
1970. Yeah, 74.
Yeah.
Let's see where it's streaming. Yes, not the
Michelle
not the
Trachtenberg.
remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that one. Let's see where it's streaming at. It is streaming on Pluto TV for free, Peacock for free, Tubi for free, Vudu for free, Crackle for free, Amazon Prime, Fubo TV, which I don't know what that is. Fubo TV. Don't know what that is. It's For Us Bias TV. Fubo TV. So it's streaming everywhere. Guys, you can find it. If you type in Black Christmas, that guy's going to be everywhere, apparently. Yeah. That thing's is a streaming slut.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. So, guys, any other thoughts before we wrap up about this? First, we need to aconize this flick. And, guys, who would Tom Atkins play in Gremlins?
I feel like it would have to be... It would almost have to be Mr. Futterman.
I agree. I love Dick Miller, though, so much.
Yeah. Could be the dad.
Good pick.
Yeah, I like him a lot, too, though. This is 1984 Tom Atkins, though. So...
You know who I would make him?
Oh.
Who?
I would make him Judge Reinhold's character.
Expand the part, make it bigger?
I got one.
Yeah, a little bit.
The sheriff.
He could probably play the sheriff or the sheriff's deputy. Yeah.
Where they're like drinking and they're like...
He's definitely drinking.
Yeah, I can picture him in that.
I will say Tom Atkins should play Gizmo. No, I think either the sheriff or like you said, Mr. Futterman. I think that's the only other bigger part besides the dad. Tom Atkins could play Mr. Peltzer, I guess. That'd be a pretty good role. We get to see his more comedic side. He would, show us his comedy side. He would throw back some beers while he's at the invention convention.
That's why God created fathers, babe.
That's why God created fathers. So true. So that's our show for this week. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Share it with all of your friends. Comment down below for our poll about the Mrs. Deagle equals Carol Baskins. That's what it is. She's a Black Widow. Um, you can find me on Twitter at Racket. You can find Lydia on Twitter at Monster Mash, right? Is that your
I
Twitter?
have no idea.
Oh, I think
Don't
that's
look
it.
for me on Twitter.
Don't look for her on Twitter, but look for me on Twitter at Racket. You can find us on Instagram at Scream Bloody Movies. You can find us on Facebook at Highlight Productions. And the movie is being edited as we speak. It's got a lot accomplished with that this week. So we'll have some news coming up on the release date of that. So I'm excited about that. I think that's it, guys. So
I got something.
if you got something, say it.
I do. I think I'm going to create a Twitter handle. Yep, so that people can reach me. It's going to be D-Dog Lee Master. What do you guys think?
It's got a ring to it.
The Dog Lee Master. Follow Derek on Twitter at D-Dog Lee Master. It'll be operational by the time this video airs. So be sure to follow Derek at D-Dog Lee Master.
With two
I'm
E's.
sure that name's available. I don't think it's one of the hot ticket ones. Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it. Without further ado, for Lydia Judy and Derek Lemaster, I am Jamie Hiles. And remember, if you're going to scream bloody
movies.
Scream bloody movies, folks.